sorry. Repeat. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10:02. The meeting started for Polk County Commissioners Court for April 25th at the Polk County Regional Health Building, Suite A. At this time, if you haven't already done so, would you please turn off or mute all your cell phones and other devices? And we would like to ask Sunny Hathaway from Central Baptist Church to come forward and lead us in prayer.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, let's pray. Lord, we just thank you this morning for the gift of life. We thank you for the gift, Lord, of knowing you. And Father, we thank you that you don't leave us in the dark, but that you guide us and you direct us with your word. You help us to make complex decisions and in an orderly way each and every day of our lives. But Lord, in our communities, you give us the ability to make good, healthy decisions and in the best way we know how. We thank you that you're a God of order, not chaos. You're a God of truth and not error. And I want to thank you for this court and just pray that you would anoint them and bless them today as they make decisions on behalf of our community. I want to thank you for every person in this room that serves our community so well. And just pray that your blessing would be upon them. Keep them safe, but also, Lord, just give them the wisdom that they need to make the decisions that they need to make and to guide and direct our community. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, did anyone sign up for public comments? No, ma'am. Very well. Informational reports. We have a proclamation for Soil and Water Stewardship Conservation Week, and we have people here to represent as well. So if you all would like to come up here, Patricia, we'll take a photo.
First, before we take a picture, I just want to thank you so much for supporting the Soil and Water Conservation District. We're able to do a lot of things with the contributions that we get from Polk and Centre County. And I just wanted to let you know that this past week, we had a contest between Corrigan and Chester on Caney Creek for the land judging and the forestry contest. And the kids that won from district schools around our area are going to state because of those contributions. We were able to give plaques and medals to the first, second, and third place winners. So we're trying to pump up conservation with our young people because that's our future. Thank you so much.
Well, I think we all need to be aware of our environment, and we definitely need to make sure that we pay attention to our soil and water, especially given the fact that we're an agricultural community to a large degree. You have to consider timber agriculture, even if it is owned by large investment groups and so forth. So we do thank you all for your services.
Well, we appreciate you very, very much.
So come on up here. Let's take a picture. And wasn't it just Earth Day the other day?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate y'all
Thank you
so
all,
much.
appreciate
Thank you.
it. Oh, here, give me your folder. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blue.
Thank you.
Okay, B, Finance Officers Association, the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for FY 2023. So every year, Carrie prepares and submits our budget for recognition for the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. She's done it again, and we've done it every time since the program started in the year 2000. So that tells you how cautious and careful we're being and transparent with our documentation. So I want to thank Carrie for her hard work and Louis for his support. Because I do have to say it is a team effort. Another thing too is I want to remind everyone that the May meetings, that we shifted them to the 3rd and the 5th Tuesday. And so the meetings in May will be on Tuesday the 16th and Tuesday, May the 30th. So make sure you change your calendars on that. Okay, item number 4, new business. You have addendums on B. Addendum number 1 in the amount of $20,289.72. Addendum number 2 in the amount of $32,066. Addendum number 3, $858.26, and addendum number 4, $7.50. Is there anything on the consent agenda, now that everyone has every page, that you all wish to pull?
So moved.
Motion to approve,
Second.
Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Cassidy. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 5, you'll notice that we have split this out. After the question that came up before, we were notified by TAC that an elected official that does not fall, since elected officials are all independent, then the personal action form is simply a formality to notify the court. We don't actually approve or disapprove of elected officials' changes in personnel action forms, and so we have split them out. However, department heads that fall under the direct supervision of the court must notify an elected official prior to submission. So, item number 5A, review and consideration of personnel action form requests submitted by department heads since the last meeting and review of any authorized emergency hiring. So we included all the preliminary listing of the PAFs, and at this time, there are no emergency hires. I need a motion.
Motion to approve it.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Cassidy, second Commissioner Dubose. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B is to receive and record the personnel action forms submitted by elected officials since the last meeting, and there are no emergency hires in that portion either. And we included a preliminary listing of the PAFs that were submitted, so I need a motion to accept.
I make the motion.
Motion to accept, Commissioner Robertson, second Commissioner Purvis. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, consider requests for revisions and amendments to the budget as follows. The FY 2023 budget revisions and amendments as presented by the County Auditor's Office. A copy of proposed revisions number 2023-13 and amendment number 2023-13A is included for your review. I need a
A
motion.
motion to approve it.
Motion, Commissioner Cassidy.
I'll second.
Commissioner Robertson, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consider request for purchase to be paid from general fund balance and included on the FY 2023 reimbursement resolution for year-end issuance of legally authorized debt as follows. A, the Justice of the Peace Precinct 2 request to purchase courtroom furnishings in the amount of $1,070.89. The replacement of the furnishings was included in the capital purchase projection listing, not to exceed $2,770. And Judge Raspberry was able to find replacement chairs for her courtroom and a jury panel for less than what she originally found. So she's well within the budget.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Dubose,
Second.
second Commissioner Purvis. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consider order authorizing the sale of fireworks during the Memorial Day period of May 24th, 2023 through midnight of May 29th, 2023. A copy of the proposed orders included for your review. Previous law required court action to restrict or prohibit sales during certain times of the year when drought conditions are present. The new law allows the court's discretion to allow fireworks sales during this holiday period instead of restricting them. But it must be adopted before May 14th.
So
So,
moved.
motion, Commissioner Purvis. I need a second.
Second.
Commissioner Cassidy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9. Consider any and all necessary action regarding the request for bids for Corrigan Sub Courthouse to be paid from the general fund balance and included on the FY 2023 reimbursement resolution for year-end issuance of legally authorized debt. We've been working with JP Precinct 3, Commissioner Purvis, and myself with Maintenance Department, and developed a layout for the remodel of the sub courthouse. This has been something that has been in discussion for a while. Beard Drafting and Design has been retained to provide the specs and the request for bids. And once the specs are received and reviewed by Commissioner Purvis, then we would like to have a request for bids to be advertised with the expectation that the court will be able to review the bids and select a contractor at the next meeting, which will be May 16th. $150,000 was included in the capital purchase projection listing that was approved for this fiscal year.
So moved.
I second.
Commissioner Purvis, Commissioner Cassidy, any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consider any and all necessary action regarding request for bids for Road and Bridge Precinct 4 building renovations to be paid from the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So, working with Commissioner Cassidy, this was placed on there previously by Commissioner Overstreet. And so now Commissioner Cassidy's office, along with the Maintenance Department, have developed a layout for the remodel. And again, Beard Drafting and Design has been retained to provide the specs and request for bids for this project. Once the specs are received and have been reviewed by Commissioner Cassidy, then the request for bids will be advertised. And again, May 16th will be the date when we would approve. $168,000 was allocated to Road and Bridge Precinct 4 from the ARPA funds for the project. So,
I motion to approve that.
motion to
second.
approve, Commissioner Cassidy, Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, consider any and all necessary action regarding expenditures from maintenance capital outlay building, which are budgeted funds as follows. The line item is utilized for large projects to maintain our buildings. In the past, these have been typically used when things like HVAC replacements, roof repairs, renovation projects, that kind of thing. They're built into the operations, but it's a specific fund, meaning that they must come to the court for approval. So it's not inside their maintenance budget to be used at their discretion, but they have to come to the court for approval for those funds. So we have a request from the capital outlay buildings line item to replace the air conditioning unit, the jail laundry facility, and windows at the Dunbar complex. The current remaining balance in this line item, minus the funds that were reserved for previously approved projects, is $110,069.
I'll make the motion.
You wanna just make the motion for both?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, then what we have is A, replacement of the air conditioning unit at the jail laundry facility, as we received quotes to replace it, and Spring HVAC can do it for $16,000. And then on B, we would like to advertise for bid for the replacement of the windows at the Dunbar complex. Those windows have been leaking for 20 years, and that is a historic building. And so we need to do a better job of preserving that building and not allowing for humidity and mold and mildew. So again, they've received bids from Onalaska Glass and Williams Glass. All the quotes are included, and Onalaska Glass comes in the amount of $86,479.92. So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Robertson, Second, Commissioner Dubose. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, consider Sheriff Byron Lyons' request for the purchase of a replacement vehicle for patrol officer using the funds paid by the insurance for the total vehicle and consider the method of funding on the remaining balance. I will say this, we're gonna put a line item that says deer collisions for the sheriff's department. Sheriff and maintenance need to quit crossing deer. So at the last meeting, you have to. At the last meeting, the court accepted the insurance company's decision to total a 2014 Chevy Tahoe and pay out $16,118.84 for replacement. The sheriff's office has found a replacement vehicle from Texan GMC Buick and Humble in the amount of $23,684.26 and is requesting that we find a way to pay the remaining balance. There is some balance in the personnel that has not been utilized in the sheriff's department. We have targeted some of those monies should it become necessary for fuel costs. But we can go ahead and utilize those monies, and then if fuel costs become an issue, then we can supplement that through contingency or the general fund. So what is the court's pleasure?
I move to approve.
Motion to approve the purchase,
Purchase.
but we have to say where the money is coming from for the difference. For $7,565.42. Want to take it out of personnel? Want to take it out of contingencies? Want to take it out of general fund?
Can you review again?
There's money in personnel because they have not been able to fill every position. And that would keep it within his budget. So that's a transfer within
That budget.
that
that'd be
budget.
Definite personnel then.
Okay. So it comes as a motion from Commissioner Cassidy. I need a second. Who did the second? I heard three voices. Dubose. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consider any and all necessary action to replace Information Technology Department total vehicle. The court accepted the insurance company's decision to total a 2017 Chevy Equinox on March 14, 2023, and pay out the $17,620.88 for replacement. The IT department has found a replacement vehicle and is requesting funding for the remaining balance. They do not have the flexibility that the sheriff's office has, and so this money would have to come from either the general fund or from the contingency funds, and we do have contingency funds available that would cover the costs. So I need a motion.
How much is the cost?
Right now, what they've found so far is like 19,000, so it's not the same amount as a sheriff, it's less than the sheriff's, cost. You have to keep in mind that when a sheriff's vehicle gets totaled, then it has all kinds of other equipment attached to it, whereas IT drives smaller vehicles, they're not as big and bulky.
Is the contingency a better place than the?
Yes, the contingency would be a better place than the general.
That's what I would.
That's $2,000 difference, roughly.
Yes, it's about $2,000 or $3,000 difference.
Make a motion to take it out of contingency.
Second.
Purvis, Robertson, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's start with longevity. Okay, so what I have handed you is our first discussion in terms of budget workshop. So keep in mind that I'm sure, once again, I'm sure everybody got their appraisals. So the property tax issue is an appraisal issue. Because the state requires our tax appraiser to have a 100% accuracy when they go randomly pull. So what that means, and they give them 5 points deviation, so they have to be within 95% and 105%. Now, we all went to school. I don't know anyone that got 105 on a perfect grade. So in the last report from the state, the average on residential, keep that word in mind, on residential properties, the average across the state of Texas was 102%, and the state likes that. All the state has to do to provide some relief is shift their requirement down 5 points to where a 95 becomes the approval rate, which would then put tax appraisers between 90 and 100. The same cannot be said for commercial properties in the state of Texas. Commercial properties in the state of Texas run at under 80% true valuations, and even 75 and 70 in some areas. So you see where the pressure is. The pressure for taxation is on the residents. It's on our homes, not on commercial properties. So, don't worry, I'm writing more letters to our legislatures. So, when the legislature puts a 3.5% cap on revenue for us, then that's gonna impact the decisions that we have to make in here. So we're gonna start with longevity, because longevity was approved in May 2022. We agreed to update the longevity policy, which was based on the recommendations of a committee that we formed. Because the issue with employees was that sometimes employees, county employees, which is who we heard from, did not feel like that merit raises, that they would ever be able to achieve a merit raise, and that there needed to be a way to provide some incentive for people to stay with the county that was not directly related to a merit increase per se, which we've now changed to a discretionary raise. And so, what we did is we went through, if you will recall before, the longevity pay was $60 per year. The math on that is $5 a month. So $60 per year, and the max you could ever get was $1,200. That's where you capped out. So we changed it, and we also changed when those payments would occur. And again, it was based on employee requests. So originally, the merit was given immediate, the merit money, the total longevity money, was given immediately prior to Christmas. Well, then when I came on board, the question was, can we move it? But it was based on the employee staying through all of December. So technically, it was supposed to be paid January 1. But the court moved it to where people could use it for Christmas. Well, then along comes Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all those other things. So then the employees wanted to know, could they have it prior to Thanksgiving so that they could take advantage of the sales. So then we decided to move it to where it was effective October 1. That way it lined up with our budget. The issue then became that if I get hired on October 2, I didn't get a check for 2 years. Because it would cycle to October 1, and I don't qualify. I'm 1 day short, right? And then it would cycle again to October 1, and I finally qualify for 1. Because again, I'm 1 day short. So we changed it. We changed it in May 2022 to where it was based on your hire date. So it didn't depend on Christmas, it didn't depend on an arbitrary date when the budget started or stopped, or insurance started or stopped, or anything. It was based strictly on your hired date. So that got changed, and so now on your hire date, these are the figures. And if you're gonna see on this one, where the printout I've given you shows you the employees, current employees, along with what they would receive. If you go to the very last page, then you can see what the total impact would be. So based on the new policy, the longevity pays in the month of the employee's anniversary. Years 2 through 4, at year 2 of your employment, you receive a check for $500. 2, 3, and 4, $500. At year 5, we double that money. So 5 through 9, you get $1,000. Years 10 through 14, you get $2,000. Years 15 through 19, $2,500. 20 through 24, $3,000. Then 25 to 29 is $3,500, and 30 plus, you get $4,000. So that's a significant change from the previous longevity. So that is one of the things that we have to keep in mind when we're making these decisions about budget. So if you look at the sheet I gave you, the FY 2024 longevity estimate for across the board will be $282,000. Okay, the longevity, the projection, keeping all things equal, so keep in mind, this is assuming no growth in personnel, and you're gonna see shortly, there's lots of requests for growth in personnel. So then if you look at it, then the projected longevity for 2025 is $344,000. For 26, $375,000, and if you go on to 5 years down the road, we are just short of $500,000. That's assuming no changes in personnel. So this is not an expenditure that we need to take lightly. We need to pay attention to that. So obviously, I do think that this will help us with retaining employees, but we just need to keep that in mind as we move forward in our discussion for the budget. We need to, when we're looking at our budget, we should not just be focusing on this year, but where are we gonna be 5 years, 10 years, after we're all done years, right? For the future of the county as a whole. Okay, so that's just a refresher, and since we have 2 new people on the court, that's just a refresher for everybody. But these are the projections that you need to keep in mind as we move forward. Are there any questions on the longevity? Okay, well, if either one of you do later, then just give me a. Commissioner Purvis, Commissioner Robertson, you want to add anything to that?
All my guys like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yes.
been it's been a good thing for our employees.
Well, I would echo that also.
Okay. Adjustment to the pay scale. Okay, the pay scale has also been, work in motion, I guess I should say. Okay, one other things that we did with the pay scale is, at the district attorney's request, we removed the attorneys from the pay scale to give her the flexibility of being able to negotiate, right, with different attorneys and build a staff that she would be happy with. So those attorneys have been taken, the attorneys have been taken off the pay scale. So the value of a pay scale is, one, to kind of compress it a little bit so that you don't have such an exorbitant range, that when you do a COLA adjustment, that it's insignificant to one group, but extremely significant to the other. So you try to compress it to some degree. So you don't want, 45 job descriptions with 45 steps to where it's so unwieldy. So we did the salary survey, we've gone through all those adjustments, and we're gonna show you some of those in a minute. But our current pay scale, it goes from group 101 to 128. And we actually don't even have some people that are, some positions that are even filled. We don't even have anyone in those positions. So it's gone beyond its scope. And so we have none in groups like 101, 103. We have several that we don't have anyone in that spot. Now I lost my fingers. Anyway, so if you look at our pay scale, our proposed pay scale, what we would like to do is, since we have removed the assistant DAs, the lead prosecutor, all of those positions, then we would like to compress it to 18 steps. And so what we would like to do is move, if you look at the bottom, you have some notes. On group 102, we would move the kitchen helpers, move them to group 1, and that is an increase in their wages. And the budget impact would be $6,846. Group 105, which is custodial maintenance workers and the receptionist, would move to group 2, which would be a 5% increase for those groups. The majority of the concerns that have been expressed to this office by elected officials and commissioners is the people that are receiving the least compensation. How do we get them to where they at least can make a living to some degree or another? The budget impact on that would be $7,949. Group 107 would move to group 3. That's no increase, no budget impact. Group 123, it has one person in it, which is our chief deputy sheriff, would move to group 18 and increase from step 2 to step 4, and the budget impact would be an increase of $61. So the total budget impact with the proposed changes would be $14,856. Now that is something that I will have to have approval on, because we will, if we're gonna move forward with building our budget, then I will have to know, not right now, but for future reference. And if you're comfortable with it right now, that certainly speeds up the process for me. Are there any questions or problems with moving
So
forward?
we're going from these 100 numbers, everything will be the group 1 through 18. We're gonna have 18 groups, that's it?
That's it,
Not 35 of them like we got.
correct. It simplifies everything, because we did have multiple groups where there was one person here or one person there. And, we had this group here, but nobody was in it. Well, why bother with a group? So this compresses it, So if you look back here, okay, so on the second page of that posting, you're going to see the shift that would occur. Okay, and what I did was I went through and said, okay, let's look at the old pay group, what happens with a raise. So with the previous pay scale, the one that was approved before we did the study, with the previous pay scale, people in group in the very bottom, okay, if you gave them a COLA, that was a $339 raise. But if you gave the top tier a COLA, that was $1,841 raise. Because our pay scale looked like this. And so this still allows Shelley to negotiate with her attorneys, right? And she will still receive monies, but then she can decide on the distribution of those monies because they're not on the pay scale. And then this allows our lower paid employees to be able to move, to get more money if we do decide to do a COLA. So the range at that time, the range for monies, for payment, the range was from $14,220 to $118,292. That was the range that was on our pay scale. So the gap is over $104,000. So this way, by pulling some of those employees out, then the range, the gap becomes a little over $59,000. And gives the district attorney's office discretion on how to proceed.
And this would give it a positive impact to our employees.
Absolutely. And that will allow us to lift the whole,
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
to lift the whole thing. At a minimal budget impact. Anybody have any other questions about it? Basically, we're compressing it, that's what we're doing. But we're compressing it up.
And the last time we did was 2017, is it? Prior to the
When we
compensation
did,
study?
when we did the salary survey, we did the salary survey in, I think it was 2019. The conclusion of it was for the 2019 budget, but we started it in 2018. And now we just tweaked it, because that was just based on the recommendations that we were given. You know, now we just tweaked it, and that's what we're doing now.
So, if I understand this correctly, this year would be under 15,000, that would be a
Yes.
budget impact. And
Correct.
in the coming years,
It would
what do
lift-
you project that would be?
Oh, well,
projection?
once we build them in like that, then it is gonna be a budget impact. But it's not going to be an explosive budget impact, you know, and I think that's also going to be another thing that helps with employee retention,
Absolutely.
you know, so without, you know, so you increase, if you lift the whole thing, which is in essence part of what happens with a COLA. When we do a COLA, then we're lifting the whole pay scale by 2.5%.
Yeah, And the more that you positively impact, employees that are good employees, and,
then the better off you're gonna be.
right, it saves you money in the long run.
Yes. Save you money in terms of training, in terms of,
Absolutely. So, do we need a motion, or?
a motion would be great, because that means I could go ahead and build it into the budget.
And it's going from 35 groups down to 15.
18.
18, I'm sorry, 18.
18.
So moved.
Commissioner Purvis,
I'll second.
second Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this next one is the request that we have received for personnel. And this is just a discussion, no decision to be made today. Just more of an FYI. Okay. So what I've given you is a printout of all the personnel-related information. Oh, I'm skipping. Okay, no, see, this new request for new positions. Okay, so our current personnel cost is $20,054,050 approximately, give or take, over 20 million, just personnel. Now, that includes their health care benefits, all that stuff. So we have had a request for 17 new positions, which would increase our personnel costs by just short of $1 million. And then we've also had 2 requests to transition from part-time to full-time, which would add another, not quite $56,000. So that would put our personnel, our additional personnel costs at over $1 million. We've also had requests for increases for current employees. One of the requests was for 8.8% increase. For us to do that, then we would have to take money away from everybody else. So the only way that, since we can't pick and choose, then the only way to do that would be to give across the board 8.8% increase. Keep in mind, we did a 10% COLA last year. So an 8.8% increase for current employees, no new employees, just current employees, comes out to $1,213,728. A COLA, or a one-step increase, or discretionary raise money, for us to give every elected official or every department head discretionary funds to where everybody in their department could get a one-step increase, would be $343,628. Given the fact that, again, we have a 3.5 revenue cap, well then, obviously, we can't give anybody without putting ourselves into the general fund again, 8.8. We did the 10% last year, and so we kind of at least stayed up with inflation for our employees. One of the things that we did this year, because of appraisals and because of the development that is occurring, we did provide our residents with a 20% homestead exemption. So that will go into effect because we made sure that we got in under the deadline for our appraisal district to do that. And right now, we do have large current growth. It's between 10 and 15% in any given location. But nevertheless, that 3.5 cap impacts us. So if you go down to the next section, which is health insurance.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
before you go
ma'am,
down there?
absolutely. At
Okay.
any point in time, interrupt me if you need something.
I just have a question on the 17 new positions requested. Is that because that we were, the growth in the county, that we're needing new positions? And then is there a particular department or,
Those are
What
across
is-
the board.
they're across
Those
the board,
are-
but are there more than?
Yes, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Right now, those are across the board. And so right now, what I want all of us to, this is how we've done before. We look at the big picture first,
Okay.
right? And then we will, so these are the requests that
Okay.
have come in. So we'll look at the big picture first, and then come in and say, okay, we can do this or that, you know? And kind of figure out how we can work either some of those things in or all of those things in, based on numbers, based on the history, based on documentation. That makes sense? But right now, I want y'all to see that just in new personnel requests, the increase would be $1 million.
But later on, we can discuss, like, and I'm just picking here, say 17 new positions requested. I mean, we can discuss,
We're
or just
gonna
add
dis-
4 or 5, or all 17,
Exactly,
right, okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So, but right now, we've received all the requests from across the county, and so I just want you to be aware that those requests are out.
And I realize that, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that with the growth that we're experiencing in the county, the
And
departments are gonna need more.
That is correct, that is correct, and so where there is a documented impact, then we are going to have to address those areas, and we are going to have to anticipate, okay, we're growing, or we're moving this direction, or, you know, we are gonna have to anticipate some of those as well. And so part of it may be that we say, okay, you know, we can go forward with, you know, 10 positions next year with the understanding that then we'll move forward over here, you know, so that we're being logical and reasonable about how we move forward.
We just get the big picture right now.
Yes, right now it's the big picture, and then we can decide, you know, if that's something, now keep in mind, if you add $1 million worth of new positions, then you don't have $1 million worth to give in raises. Because personnel is the one thing that you have to pay attention to. Personnel costs are not going to go down, at least let's hope not, right? So.
And once they're in the budget, they're there, they recur every year.
Yes,
Once they're there, they're there.
that's right. Once they're there, that's it. You can say, okay, you know, we're gonna do without new vehicles for 2 years, or we're gonna skip the IT rotation this year. You can do things like that, but you cannot, I'm not much on pink slips is my point, I guess.
Well,
So once you add that $1 million to personnel, you're pulling it out of the pool of what's available for raises for the personnel that you already have, and it's a permanent fixture. Any more questions on that? Okay, health insurance is another permanent fixture. So last year, health insurance premiums increased by 7.5%. So if that same increase is realized in this year, in FY 2024, and we've all heard how cost of goods and services has continued to rise, then the individual premium will rise to $11,840. And so the county would realize an increase, because keep in mind, we pay the whole thing, 100% of the employee's insurance. So that would increase our premiums for the current 291 employees would would increase by 240,000, a little over $240,000. So that will have to be, and we don't typically hear from insurance until May or June, so we don't know. They may contact us back and say, no, we got you last year, we'll wait till next year. I mean, we don't know. And also keep in mind for our employees that our participation rate in the healthy employee, the healthy county, that improves our insurance rates.
So we should know by the end of May or beginning of June?
May of June, we will know what that final number looks like. We're just saying that last year, this is what it was, and that all we've heard so far, we haven't heard anyone contact us and say, woo-hoo, our insurance rates went down 7.5%. No such animal. So we will know that in May or June. Okay, let's talk about retirement. The 2023 cost to the county for our retirees was not quite $2 million. Now, we did give a cost of living, I guess. COLAs are adjusted, or we commit to the COLAs, or we fund the COLAs over a 15-year period. So we have not, 2018 was the last time that the court did anything, which was a 10% COLA, Consumer Price Index COLA. However, there were no adjustments, there have been no adjustments made, and given the fact that we had such a massive increase in our inflation rate, then our retirees have not gotten any consideration. So if the court is interested, then we can look at we can either modify what we have and do a CPI, which is a consumer price index based, or we can do a flat rate. The flat rate is, that would be at 5%, and you can see what our current, down on the bottom, you can see what our current rate is for 2024, 2025, and so forth. If we add a 10% CPI, then it would increase it slightly. If we did a flat rate, then it would increase it significantly. So that's something else you need to think about. And obviously, we don't have any numbers at this time because first we need to know if you want to even consider it. In 2018, was 5 years ago, and the COLAs are funded over 15 years. So if the court wants to leave that alone for now, we certainly can. Okay, so these are all food for thought. Okay, if you go to the page behind that, this is where we kind of put the cost of living. This is the history. We started in, we gave you the history for the previous 20 years, mostly just so you can see when other market studies were done, or when the pay scale was expanded, that kind of stuff. But we're not gonna go back the full 20 years. I will give you information since I've been here, which is what's down in the block. So starting in 2015, that is when we did the forbearance agreement, or the forbearance agreement was done. So in 2016, which would have been our first budget year, in 2015, there was also an increase in the health premium of 7.71%. And then we had forbearance agreement, and so there was no COLA given at that, in 2016, and the healthcare premium increase was absorbed by the county. So you had an increase, you know, basically, but not in your paycheck for employees. Okay, in 2017, we had a 4.98 health premium increase, and we funded the retiree health trust at $500,000 a year because it was sliding into the red and needed to be supported. In 2018, we had a 2.5% COLA. We had 8.76 health premium increase, and again, the county absorbed that. In 2019, we had a 2.5% plus COLA, depending on who was impacted by the compensation study. The range of increase in pay was from 2.91% to 16.48%. The average wage increase was 4.87. And again, we had a health premium, and in this case, this is the first time ever, we had a health premium decrease because we participated well with Healthy County, but don't worry, they took it back the next year. Obviously, we got lazy. Okay, so in 2020, that was our second year of finishing out the salary survey. And so people with 8+ years of service got a 1-step increase. In 2021, we had a 3.5% health premium decrease, and that was COVID, so we didn't replace anybody. But if you look down below, where we have the total personnel costs, then you're gonna see what the total personnel costs were. Then in 2022, we had the COLA, 5% COLA plus. That was when we put the 2.5% merit funding in there. 2023, we had a 10% COLA, and the health premium increase was 7.47. So the COLA, just the COLA, not merits, increases since 2015 have averaged out to 2.5% per year. That's COLA only, not counting merit increases. So if you look down at the total personnel costs, and this is, since we transitioned to Encode, that's as far back as we can go. Okay, so in 2018, that's when you had the health increase and plus a COLA, and there's your personnel costs. Personnel costs at that in 2018 were $15,892,874. And so if you go through, you can see the increases that occur. So in 2019, you had a 4% increase. In 2020, you had a 4% increase plus an increase in health insurance. Then you had the decrease because of the health insurance. And then in 2022, our total personnel costs were $18,230,339, which was a 7.3% increase, because that's when we gave the 5% COLA and merit monies to the elected officials and department heads. And then in 2023, which is where we are today, it's at $20,346,585, which is an 11.6% increase because of the COLA and the health benefits. So our personnel costs have consistently gone up. And the average increases since 2015 for COLAs has been 2.5% per year, not counting merits or discretionary rates. Anyone have any questions on that? Again, this is just food for thought, so if something catches your attention, call Carrie. So we're trying to stay with that. You know, we wanna continue improving our salary schedule, we wanna continue improving our, compensation to our employees, because that is the only way that we're gonna be able to retain good employees, and it's across the board, okay? It's across the board. Keep in mind that we're all in this tapestry together. You can't neglect the one and expect the whole to continue functioning. Any questions?
So if we have another request, we just need to ask Carrie to.
Oh, no, I'm teasing. You can
Okay.
call me and ask me.
Okay, 'cause I didn't.
Yeah, no, well, if you have a question, you have a question now, or you
Well,
just?
I'm just gonna ask.
Not sure.
I know I was gonna ask on this last total personnel cost, if we could get a number of employees for each year and versus the retirees, just to see how that breaks out.
Okay, we can do that. Cause our number of employees has gone up, it has increased. Yeah, we can do that, that's not a problem, I should have thought of
Yeah.
that.
On
Total
this-
personnel costs,
Right here.
over how many employees.
You just
Oh,
get a
okay.
little bit, complete picture of.
Now, keep in mind too, that sometimes that's a moving target.
Yes.
Sometimes what you ask us in January may not be the same when you get to March.
Well, I would just, whatever month you pick, just keep it at that.
As long as
same-
it's the same.
Consistent, yeah.
Gotcha.
That'd be great, thank you.
Will do, not a problem. Okay. So if there's no decision to be made on that, we just need to be able to keep that in mind as we work through the process. And don't worry, I will remind you as we go on. Okay, the next one is vehicles requested. Okay, for you, those of you new on the court at one time, the new vehicles used to all be placed on capital projection. The problem with that is that the deer line item kept getting us, and we would have a request for multiple vehicles, but our, payments were over a 7-year period. So we were making interest payments a lot of times on vehicles that we no longer owned, or in some cases had been totaled. They didn't even exist, but we were still paying interest on them. So, after reviewing multiple times over multiple budgets, we moved vehicles to a lease system with Enterprise and got it out off of our debt schedule. And we're still newbies at this, so we're still looking at it and still watching it. So these vehicle requests will be for Enterprise, not for purchase, but for the lease program. And so we have maintenance, requesting 3, and they provide the documentation, and their vehicles are falling apart. The district attorney is requesting 1 as well. And then the sheriff is requesting 4 patrol units that will have all new equipment, and 4 patrol units where they have used equipment they can put on it, and 2 CID units as well. So the total number of vehicles being requested is 14. So this would be the one-time cost, and then the annual total cost that would occur. And if you look at it, for 10 vehicles, or 14, excuse me, for 14 vehicles through the lease agreement, the total cost would be $210,378.48, which is a whole lot better than purchasing these vehicles, paying interest, and not having the vehicle in some cases. Not saying all 14 would be damaged or disappear, but just, it brings it down to more reasonable. And then the one-time cost, which would be for, the equipment, is $123,895.50. I don't have any objections to any of these new vehicle requests. I think they're all necessary, I think they're all needed, and I think the documentation that was presented by those departments makes sense. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, but now the ones we leased last year,
We still have them, but they will be on a rotation. Now, the rotation, previously, the original rotation was for every 2 years. That rotation, because of the lack of availability of vehicles, has been extended, but nevertheless, they still will rotate out and Enterprise will take them.
okay, now, how much does that lease cost?
That's what this is.
That's what we're gonna rotate forward.
Mhm.
On this,
So it's not two, it's not separate, they're all, this is just.
This will
only-
just, this will be applied to these vehicles right here, and when it comes time for these vehicles to rotate out, then they will rotate out, and then we get the proceeds from those, from the sale. We have not been in it long enough to get the first return on investment.
That's what I'm saying, the ones we leased last year,
They're still there, they're still with
and
us.
we gotta pay that lease this year.
Yes, yes,
So-
sir.
So how much is,
I don't know last year compared to.
oh yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
either, but
We can get you that information.
yeah, and that way we'll know how much total we're paying.
Yes, sir, and where
For
we
vehicles.
will really be able to get a look at it is when the first set of
When we get
vehicles
paid.
sells, and we get
A return.
the return.
Yes, ma'am.
That's when we will really be able to see, and again, this doesn't have to be a permanent thing, you
Yeah, I
know?
know, but I was just trying to
Yeah,
get the
no,
whole
yes,
number,
sir.
I couldn't remember either.
Okay, so, what we can do is we can get you all a comparison to where you're get a look at, and so it will have to be the number of vehicles, you know, along with.
Yeah, we did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus the cost, so the number of vehicles and the cost. And that'll mostly be for comparison purposes,
yes,
but doesn't necessarily impact. We still need these vehicles, I guess is my point.
now, question I have is, on the sheriff department, new versus used, we're talking $700 difference per unit. It's $2,800 a year difference. I mean, is that used equipment, or we gonna turn around within a year and buy equipment again for that?
No,
Or is it
sir,
used,
no,
or
sir,
does it
no,
come with-
sir.
Okay.
No, sir, that is legitimate equipment, but instead of outfitting the vehicle, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong at any point, Ricky, instead of re-outfitting the vehicle with brand-new equipment, then you can take the equipment off, send the vehicle down the road, and put the equipment back
So
on.
it's already out, okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
but
Okay,
it's
that's-
good equipment, it's just, you don't wanna keep spending $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 on equipment that.
Well, no, I don't want to, no, but
No.
I'm just asking, just make certain.
No, that's the difference. So basically, what Ricky has done is gone through and assessed the equipment and said, okay, we have 4 good pieces of equipment that we don't need to
Replace.
replace.
you would think it would be a bigger difference.
Yeah,
No.
you would think, that's
If you
what.
look at the one-time costs,
It's
the
in the
sheriff's
one-time cost.
$116,000, you'd have to double that if we were putting it on all.
See the one-time cost, aftermarket
Oh, okay,
equipment,
over here.
116,000?
That's where the new equipment is, okay.
That's what,
I'm like, I was trying to figure out why, no, it wasn't.
you were
much
trying to do
different.
the math, so $1,000 didn't sound like much.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, I'm
Yeah.
looking at it.
No, it's the one-time cost where they get you.
Okay.
And the district attorney is not gonna have all the bells and whistles, but they are going to have lights. You know, they need to be able to identify themselves as being law enforcement to some degree, but they're not gonna have the chase vehicles and all the stuff that they used to have before. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve moving forward with the vehicles?
Approval.
Commissioner Dubus, Commissioner Robertson, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good, because we need to order those babies if we wanna have them before Christmas. At this rate. Okay. E, discuss capital purchase requests and maintenance capital outlay, buildings. So these are the capital purchase requests that we have, received. And I'm not gonna just say received, that have been discussed and basically agreed upon. The county clerk's office would like land and vital records software, in the amount of $65,000. The judicial center video surveillance and access controls, all of those things need to be upgraded, they need to be brought up to date. Unfortunately, that's not gonna be a cheap, investment. That would be approximately $230,000. IT for their annual rotation, which is built in the budget if the funding allows. The total IT rotation is $45,570. If you will recall, what we did in the past was every now and then, everybody would just run until every piece of equipment became obsolete. Then all of a sudden, we would get hit with, hey, we have to have $500,000 worth of. And so by doing this rotation, we have been able to maintain operations in every office, because as equipment becomes obsolete, then we take it out, and then you never have to argue over, is the software compatible? My computer can't speak to your computer, and your computer can't speak to your computer. All of that, those issues became obsolete. So we built into the budget, when the funding allows, to maintain our annual technology rotation, and then usually that's about the same amount that it has come in every year, just because we're trying to stay consistent. Emergency management, the EOC also needs to be upgraded, with audiovisual equipment upgrades, along with, laptops or whatever communications they're gonna utilize out in the field, and that estimate is around $150,000. The district clerk and county court at law, would like to get the Tyler Technology Enterprise Justice module, which is in the amount of $25,200. As the state keeps pushing for us to go paperless as much as possible, then this would allow them to be more efficient in their offices and be able to have better scheduling opportunities and be able to transfer information. And then the sheriff, district attorney, aftermarket for vehicles, which was discussed above, which would be the $123,895 that we just approved. Okay, so the total on capital outlay request is $639,465.50. Usually what we do is if during this, budget year, we can find a way to fund some of these, then we will. Just to try not to increase our capital outlay as much as we possibly can at this point, because we do have some debt in other areas. The courthouse, we have other debt. So if there's a possibility, then like, for example, information technology, that will probably just get built into the budget, which is what we've done in the past, just put it in the budget somewhere. Obviously, the judicial center surveillance will have to go on capital outlay, along with the EOC audiovisual equipment, because those are both large chunks. And again, there isn't anything on the capital purchases that this office would consider does not need to be included or added. And so, however, there may be some things that if we're able to build them into the budget, then they would not go onto capital outlay to incur debt. But we need to go ahead and approve whatever we would be willing to consider to have on capital purchase requests and for the buildings.
I'm new commissioner here, I'm gonna ask, emergency management, EOC, audio and visual equipment, what is that exactly?
That is what provides them satellite services.
Satellite
It
service.
provides them satellite services during emergency. That is where the Texas Department of Emergency Management communicates with them. That is where all the communications come through. One of the things that drove home some of the audiovisual requests was, you know, we're used to going to the EOC over here, which has a big screen TV, TDM, you know, the whole Department of Emergency Management can get on the screen and communicate back and forth with our fire departments, with the game warden, rescue strike team, whatever they are, you know, with the sheriff, with whoever they need to communicate with. One of the things that got driven home with us was when we responded to the tornado. Well, then, now you don't have your big screen and you don't have communications. And so one of the portions that is in here is to upgrade their laptops to where they can communicate. Any of you that went into the pop-up EOC that we had wires hanging all over the place, so that, and people coming in with their computers and hooking them up so that Stephanie could communicate with finance. You see what I'm saying? So that.
I follow you now,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So that's an upgrade, but it also includes portable equipment that they would take with them. We had the same thing when we had all the fires in the Corrigan 287 area. Remember, we're walking around inside the church saying, hold on, can you hear me now? Trying to pick up signal. And so what this would allow them to do is have a MiFi or have redundancy as well, so that if one means of communication doesn't work, then there's another means of communication. And that is one of those things that we won't hear from them, you know, for another 10 years, hopefully.
I mean, I see the importance of it, I didn't know, I was
Yeah.
asking.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, if you wanna, and both of you really should go take a look at it. You should go over to the EOC and see how it's set up and why it's set up that way.
Hopefully, yes, all you gotta do is just tour it, we don't never have to go back over there.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we keep having 100-year floods, so I figure we are not due for another 100-year-old flood till
Something else.
3035.
Well, we'll see about that.
Okay, we can move forward with approval on that, just so that we can go ahead and get
Approval on
started. On the capital purchase request, with the understanding that anything that can be taken out will be. If there's something, if
I
there's
just
some,
been doing some rough figuring in my head, we're gonna have to cut something somewhere, cause we got over $2.7 million worth of requests. We never had that kind of extra money in our budget.
I know, that's why I'm giving you food for thought. Now, on the capital purchase request, that would go on our debt.
But we can still cut what we want.
And we can discuss whatever you wish to discuss, Commissioner Purvis.
Okay.
And we can limit wherever you want. I mean, with our capital purchase requests, when we were getting requests for, you know, 13 vehicles and 25, 50 computers all at one whack, we did go through and say, we're only going to agree to X amount of debt. So we've done that before.
Yeah.
And so we both,
And you know what, that's one of the things we need to get, we need to get our timeline that we used to have on our debt, we need to get that for next time. Cause if you recall in the past, what we've given you is we showed you where the judicial center came off, what our debt payments were, when the jail, sheriff's office is due to come off, so that you could look at, but at that time, we were focusing more on debt and trying to get our debt down. But we do need to get that information for you.
And these, this, E, that's for FY 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are these prices set, you know, what's to keep them from
If we approve them,
going up?
then they hold it that.
They will
Because
hold
we,
it
yes,
that.
we have gotten projections.
but you said if the funds allow it, so if we approve it, that still don't mean we're buying it exactly, right? I mean,
Correct. Right. You're approving it for saying that this will be considered.
Considered.
And the reason you're doing that is because you wanna be able to anticipate what you're committing to. Okay, so in the middle, let's say in the middle of the budget year, or after this budget has been adopted, someone comes in and says, oh, I forgot to tell you, I need new whatever. Well, then at that point in time, we tell them, you're gonna have to keep that and it'll be a budget request. There are people in this room that have been through that process where we said, well, we're sorry, but the time to do that was during the budget, when the commissioner's court could consider all your requests and decide how to move forward. And so you're gonna have to wait for the next budget cycle. And, okay, we'll pick on Shalana. So Shalana came in with more than just this land and vital records request for us to review or look at or consider. Okay, well then, after further reviewing the GO or whatever it was, then she was like, yeah, no, this will be useful to her offices, because they can look at the land and vital records and utilize that information. But upon further review on some of the other things that she wanted to take, that she was considering, not that she made a decision on, well then, she rescinded those requests. And the same thing with the EOC, okay? Courtney had some things that she wanted us to consider, but the state is not even a vendor with that group. And so, right now, the state provides us with direct web services. Well, there's no reason for us to invest, thousands of dollars on a program that the state currently provides free of charge. So, we will gather that documentation from her, but we won't necessarily move until we get a chance to really look at it.
and we say land and vital record software, that's strictly just the software to do that. That's not labor or anything y'all doing, that's $65,000, that's strictly for the computer software.
That's a purchase.
Period.
That's the purchase, and for them.
Purchase it.
Yes, that's for them to purchase it, and that's for installation, whatever the upfront cost is.
Cost of install it and so forth.
That includes conversion of their old data too. Like the data that they have that they're using now, it includes the conversion of that data into the new software.
Yes.
Okay.
So they will transition her entire office over to this new software.
That's that kind of stuff you don't use.
No, they don't. That's the reason I'm asking.
That's the kind of stuff that we know you don't use.
That's right.
What was
Reason they
that?
call
Missed
me
that.
instead of email.
Huh?
I missed that, what was it?
Commissioner Purvis said that's the kind of stuff we don't use.
Oh.
And I said, that's the kind of stuff that we know you don't use. Okay, can I have a motion to move forward with the capital purchase requests? I wanna get it in my budget. Milt Purvis, quit doing math.
So we're gonna approve it, but just as long as
we're gonna approve it, but then I may come back later and say, that's okay.
It's about time.
We have money over here that we can pay for this or this or this. And so basically what you're agreeing to is that we will not incur more debt than the $639,000 plus.
That's the ceiling.
Yes, that's the absolute ceiling.
Okay, I'll make that.
Well, we might not even
Thank you,
spend that
Commissioner
much.
Purvis.
I'll say.
Commissioner Dumas, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
You
opposed?
put it that way, we'll.
Somebody make sure they have a cast available for Commissioner Purvis when we leave today. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the other ones.
And Judge, on mine, if we have funds in my fund balance, that can be used
And
as well
that's my
towards mine.
point, that if there's money left in some of her state funds, well then, it can pay for all or part of it. If there's monies available that did not get expended, well, she wasn't gonna tell you she'd give you her money until she had to.
Road and Bridge Precinct 3 fund.
And I think I'll bleed it anyway.
Okay. So, we've already discussed the potential for increased insurance. Take a look at the retiree benefits. If you have any questions, let us know about that. We talked about the timeline of increases that we have done. And so what you have now are some of the county operating expenses, mostly so that you could take a look at what the increases have occurred. So if you look at the office supplies, which is generally paper, in 2022, we expended less than $10,000 on paper. In the 2023 budget, we increased it because we knew that costs had gone up pretty exorbitantly. And so we increased the budget to $18,000, or we put a budget in there of $18,000. To date, right now, and this was printed, this is from April. Okay,
Correct.
basically April 6th, I think is when we printed things. At this time, over $16,000 of the $18,000 have been expended, and we have 6 months to go.
But once we go paperless now, we should be going back down.
You're never going paperless, you know you're not.
We're trying.
And I'm
Okay.
sorry, the district clerk and county court at law cannot handle it for all of us. Not for lack of effort, between the DA, the district clerk, the county court at law, we're making very good progress. But we still have some glitches in the system. So, I say that, all to say that right now, our preliminary projection for paper is at $25,000. So you can see how there's been a sizable impact on our operations. If you look down at electricity, gas, heat, and water, okay, if you look at the 2022 activity, then in the year-to-date, right now, our year-to-date activity, we're not too far off with electricity, because our 2023 budget was for $500,000, and we're at 274, slightly over 274, so we're not too far off. But if you look at gas and heat, the budget, the 2023 budget was for $48,000, and we are currently at 55, almost $56,000, and we still have 6 months to go. Then with water, we budgeted 90,000, we're not too far off, we're at 46. But gas and heat is definitely kicking us around. So all those budgets, if you'll see, our preliminary projection, which all of this is going to be tweaked. Obviously, the preliminary on gas and heat is going to have to go up even more, given where we stand today. In the past, there has been some discussion about moving some of these expenses that are kind of countywide expenses, of moving them into the department budget, just so somebody's watching that for that building and for that department. So that may be something that the court needs to consider. I mean, how do you know there's a water leak in your department if what we're looking at is one giant bill?
It's probably not a bad idea to consider that moving it to.
So we can look into that and see about
Please do.
transferring those into the
Yeah, I mean,
department.
'cause we all have our, you know, we look at our electric bill, our water bill, and our phone bill every month. We do. Unless you wanna put ours in the revenue budget.
No.
We'll still watch it for us.
Yeah, that's very generous of you. We will charge you a 15% administrative cost. Okay, I do think that we're gonna have to do that, because we're gonna have to become, each department is gonna have to become more aware of what's happening with their costs. So that's more budget impact, that we're gonna have a nice sizable increase in operations as well. Okay, okay, the last thing I have for you, and this again is just preliminary wages and benefits. And again, this one is also just for your consideration, or for your information. You can go through, we have given you a listing, and please keep in mind that don't share other people's wage information. If we receive a FOIA request, certainly it will be provided, but I don't want to share other elected officials' wage information at this time. Okay, so basically what this is,
They all know it is.
huh?
You don't have to worry about this, they all know it anyway.
And that's fine, that's fine. So if you look at it, this gives you just the preliminary of where we are right now. And just to note that the totals on the wages, the total employment benefit, that does not include taxes. That's the wages, the retirement, longevity, insurance, et cetera, but not taxes. And that's just for you to look at the staffing, look at the current wages, what it looks like in each department. Okay, are there any budget workshop questions? Nope. Okay. Take that home for your reading pleasure. Okay, item number 15, discuss and consider appointment of interim tax assessor collector. We're going into executive session as authorized by Texas Government Code Title V, Subchapter D of the Texas Open Meetings Act as amended, Section 551.074, for deliberation regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties of a public officer or employee, and Section 551.072, for deliberation regarding real property. So thank you all, everybody, and if I could get everyone to exit, then we will.
Is this gonna happen after this? Done.
Not that you need, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys, appreciate
Folks,
it.
have a great rest of your day.
We will,
Thank you,
you
Lois.
too.
11:37.
Thank you, ma'am.
Two of them.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, Carrie, we need for you to stay in.
No problem.
And I'm gonna say 11:38.
Started at 11:38.
Yep.
wanted to pull the, over the list, I mean, I have it under there in case, you know, whenever,
Face down.
you know, how people walk up after,
Okay.
Really? Okay, well,
I was wondering where he got that notebook. I knew good and well he didn't bring one in. I've been watching him write.
do what then?
I was wondering where you got.
Yeah, I knew he didn't bring one in. Over there scribbling on.
I didn't think I'd drawn you some pictures, writing you some nice little notes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, what time is it official?
12:01.
Okay, 12:01, we're back in open session, which was for the appointment of an interim tax assessor collector. So what is the court's pleasure? I need a nominee.
I'm gonna nominate Steve.
Steve Houlihan?
I'll second.
Okay. Kathy Robertson. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So for the record, the request will be to have an interim person in that office that can continue to maintain operations in that office, and which will allow the voters to then decide who they would like to have represented as tax assessor collector. Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Burns.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I didn't know if we'd ever get there or not. Ready to see anything.
We're getting there.
I'm usually ready.
What time is it?
12:02.
Y'all have been wore out today.
Okay, thank you, everybody, I appreciate it. Sure.
Okay, let's get things done real quick.
Oh, I don't know, for the county and district clerks, the income that we collect.
No. Budget we worked on.
Well, it's gonna be more than 20 million, because the personnel costs.
Say what? He asked if we're still an officer. She wants me to run.
I'll
Do
figure
you
it
want
out.
last year's, do you want
Let's
last
get
year's
last
budget?
year.
Okay, just get Becky to send you last year's budget, so you can take a look at it. That's not a problem. Becky, would you send Commissioner Cassidy's last year's budget?
Okay. I know, we're done.
I don't need to sign it, I didn't even suggest it.
Nothing for you guys to sign today.
I had my pen ready, Luann.